Hey everyone, we're back with more Aether Revolt previews, and I gotta tell you, things have not calmed down as much as I thought they would. There's a ton of stuff to go over, so we're gonna jump right in, but before we go, quick reminder. Our exclusive limited edition winter playmat is only on sale for another 2 days. 2 days! If you want to help the channel continue and get a beautiful new playmat in the process, you can click the link right on your screen. Once the sale is over, these will never be made again, so zoom. Alright, spoiler time. Inspiring Statuary is 3 mana for an artifact. Non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise. Well, here's a way to give all your stuff happy robot feelings. What's cool is that you can use the Statuary to improvise spells itself, so at worst you're looking at a mana rock. It could be a lot worse, considering the best case scenario is you play a deck with a bunch of artifacts, probably servo tokens or clues, then use them to cast something absolutely monstrous. It'll be interesting to see if something like this sees any play beyond Commander, but if it does, I'd be very curious to see that shell. Only casting non-artifact spells is a little constricting, but hey, I'm nothing if not optimistic. Aethergeode Miner is 2 mana for a 3/1 Dwarf Scout. Whenever it attacks, you get 2 energy. You can also pay 2 energy to exile the miner, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. First thing I noticed, this is a white energy card. Aren't exactly a lot of those running around, I find that interesting. Second, the miner triggers Revolt whenever you want it. You attack with it, get 2 energy, then if they block, you can just blink it. If they don't, you have 2 energy for future blink shenanigans. Remember, Revolt triggers on any permanent leaving the battlefield, it doesn't care how they left, so this blink trigger, repeatable enabler. Do not underestimate these. This is a solid card. Mechanized Production is 2 of anything and 2 blue for an enchantment aura. Enchant artifact you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifact. Then if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game. You win the game? That's all you need? I mean, okay, sure, 8 copies seems like a lot, but you have clue tokens, servo tokens, 8 copies? Everyone, I think this is legitimately brewable in Standard. Seriously, look at this thing. It isn't that expensive, and you only need 8 copies. Not that much, considering how many clue and servo generators there are running around Standard right now. Something else important to note, you don't have to win the game using the enchanted artifact's name. You just need 8 copies of any artifact. So you could find a way to enchant something a bit more difficult to remove when you try to go off and win. Of course, you could just be like me and try to build a deck built around winning with 8 Ornithopters, so yeah, now that's the dream. Reverse Engineer is 3 of anything and 2 blue for a sorcery with Improvise. Draw 3 cards. Simple card, I like the design. Yes, it's a sorcery, which definitely sucks, but we're looking at Improvise as a potentially powerful ability. I wouldn't be surprised if instant speed was just a bit too powerful. With all the clue and servo synergies running around in the set already, a 2 mana draw 3 instant seems a bit too good. Now in its current state, I don't think it's as universally good as Glimmer of Genius, but then again it isn't supposed to be now, is it? Solid draw spell for an artifact heavy deck, I'll be watching this one even at sorcery speed. Glintsleeve Siphoner is 2 mana for a 2/1 human rogue with Menace. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you get 1 energy. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. This is the most fair Dark Confidant we're going to get in Standard, and I am okay with that. 2 mana for a 2/1 with Menace is perfect for the abilities it comes with, and Menace synergizes with its attacking trigger. Oh my god, the Siphoner is so good. It's deceptively good. Remember, you can use energy from anywhere. Think about how much energy production is in Standard right now, and the trigger is on upkeep, not attack, so you can turn this into a Phyrexian arena if you want to. Don't underestimate the Siphoner. It's definitely one of the better bad Dark Confidants we've had in a while. More consistent than Asylum Visitor, better than Painseer for sure. I have high hopes for this card, like very high hopes. Yahenni Undying Partisan is 3 mana for a 2/2 legendary creature, Aetherborn Vampire with haste. Still loving that creature type. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Yahenni. You can also sacrifice another creature and Yahenni gains indestructible until end of turn. Now of course as soon as we see a sick outlet like this, we all come back to Aristocrats. And with the Cutthroat still in Standard, this could be it. Its power doesn't jump out at you, but in the right shell, I think we're looking at a powerful top-end aggro creature, or the beginning of an Obzan, Token, Aristocrats, weird nasty combo deck that's gonna wreck everyone. I love me some Aetherborn. This is a nice, definitely underrated card. Release the Gremlins is double X and 1 red for a sorcery. Destroy X target artifacts. Create X 2/2 red gremlin creature tokens. So this is a pretty peculiar card. First things first, you can only create as many gremlins as you can destroy artifacts. Since it doesn't say up to X artifacts, you have to be able to destroy that many. Kind of sad, but we'll deal. At worst, this ends up being 3 mana to destroy an artifact and get a 2/2, so all in all, not terrible. Certainly not the crazy broken cards we've seen up to this point, but regardless, gotta love me some gremlins. Aetherwind Basker is 4 of anything and 3 green for a 7/7 lizard with trample. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you get 1 energy for each creature you control. You can also pay 1 energy, and it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Now this is a giant, dumb green mythic I can get behind. Talk about an absolute monster. 7 mana for a 7/7 with trample that can pump itself and brings with it a bunch of energy, hopefully. That's not so bad. Now, of course this isn't going to take over constructed play, but if you open this ridiculous thing at your pre-release, yeah, your opponents better have real removal, because facing down this lizard with a bunch of energy to throw into it, that is nasty stuff. Aid from the Cowl is 3 of anything and 2 green for an enchantment with Revolt. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, you may reveal the top card of your library. If the revealed card is a permanent, you may put it onto the battlefield, otherwise you may put it on the bottom of your library. At first glance, I thought this was a bit crazy because it straight up lets you put your top permanent onto the battlefield, but then I really got to thinking about it. 5 mana is a lot. There's no guarantee that you get anything, and you still have to trigger Revolt each time you want this to work. I don't think it's the worst card ever, but I do think that this is on the less powerful side of cards we've seen from the set so far. Rishkar's Expertise is 4 of anything and 2 green for a sorcery. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Wait, this cannot be real. So let me get this straight. For 6 mana, you get to draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Okay, so it's some solid draw in any green deck. Now, you've just drawn a bunch of cards. Then you get to cast a card, any card, at 5 converted mana cost or lower, for free, and you just saw a bunch of new cards too? Rishkar's Expertise is the commander player's dream. I honestly wish it could be insane in Standard, because that card advantage is truly outrageous, but let's be honest. How many of you saw this and drooled over the commander playability? I mean, you can't ignore it. 6 mana for a bunch of new cards and a free spell. Can you imagine the craziness with Selvala, Heart of the Wilds, Mile the Anima? The list is so long. Rishkar's Expertise, crazy for commander, just nutso. Tezzeret's Touch is 1 of anything, 1 blue and 1 black for an enchant artifact aura. Enchanted artifact is a creature with base power and toughness 5/5 in addition to its other types. When enchanted artifact is put into a graveyard, return that card to its owner's hand. Oh, wow. This uncommon came out of nowhere to me. This is what happens when Tezzeret gets his dirty yet awesome hands-on in Soul Artifact. Now takes 2 colors, but the artifact comes back. That's nice resiliency there. The problem? The touch works well with Ornithopter, which I'm sure was the intent, but also with Smuggler's Copter, arguably the most hated artifact in Standard in the last decade. So there's clearly good and bad here. If we see some type of blue-black artifact-based strategy that is anything but control, the touch could see at least some playtesting. Even at 3 mana, that 5/5 boost is powerful. I would not ignore it. Spire of Industry is a non-basic land card that you can tap to add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. You can also tap it and pay 1 life to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Activate this ability only when you control an artifact. As pointed out a million times already, this is basically what happens when Mana Confluence and Glimmer Void fall in love and have amazing Standard playable babies. Talk about fixing. Sure, you need an artifact, but do you see where we are in Standard right now? There are artifacts everywhere, and while it isn't as reliable as Aether Hub, you can bet your sweet patootie that we're going to see this tower alongside the hub for a while. And worst case scenario, colorless mana, and it doesn't enter the battlefield tapped. This thing is strong. Insert generic statement about its obvious playability in Commander 2. Just duh. Aether Revolt previews keep flying at us from all over the place. We've seen a decent amount of the set so far, so where do you all stand? Is this what you expected from the set? Is it better than you expected? Worse? I gotta know where you stand right now. Personally, I think the set has exceeded the relatively low expectations that most people had for it going in. Honestly, I know I'm surprised by the creative design and just raw power of the set so far. Again, please, make sure you let me know what you're thinking in the comments. We'll talk about it. As always, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. Day 2 of Aether Revolt preview season is coming to a close and we're looking at so many good cards. We're talking solid playables in multiple formats. If this set is something that you're interested in buying, you can pre-order boxes right now, this very second, for $90 each. $90! You know how cheap that is, especially compared to a lot of stars that overcharge. If you haven't pre-ordered your box yet and you want a cheap, fair price, look no further. Click the link, helps the channel, get some Aether Revolt, everyone's happy, win-win.